I wanted to come on and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken.
The search for Nancy Guthrie in its 17th day, and now the Pima County Sheriff's Department says DNA from a set of gloves found 2 miles from Guthrie's house. One glove does not match anything in the FBI's national DNA database. And this comes as investigators continue looking for any clues that could lead to the kidnapper. Fox's Caroline.
Let me ask you something. Imagine you drop your elderly mother off at her home after a lovely evening together. Dinner, laughter, maybe some card games. You watch her walk inside, you drive away, and that is the last time you ever see her. That is exactly what happened to the Guthrie family on the night of January 31st, 2026. And what followed is one of the most chilling, heartbreaking, and still unsolved disappearances in recent American history. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She is not just any grandmother. She is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, one of the most recognizable faces on American television, co-host of NBC's Today Show. But to her family, Nancy is not a celebrity connection. She is mom. She is the woman who raised her children with love, who still went to church every Sunday without fail, who still lived on her own in her home in the Catalina Foothills, a quiet, upscale neighborhood north of Tucson, Arizona. She was independent, mentally sharp, full of life, but she was also fragile in ways that make this case even more terrifying. Nancy has a pacemaker. She relies on daily medication to manage her heart condition and high blood pressure. Without those medications, every single day that passes is not just an emotional crisis for her family. It is a medical emergency. Now, before we go any further, if you are new here, welcome to Shadow Crime. If this kind of deep, real, and raw storytelling is what you are looking for, hit that like button right now, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss a single update. We cover cases like this because these are real people, real families, in real pain, and they deserve to be heard. Now, let us get back to Nancy. So here's what we know about that night. On January 31st, family members spent the evening with Nancy and dropped her off at home at around 9:45 p.m. Everything seemed completely normal. She went inside. They drove away. But sometime in the early hours of February 1st, something happened inside the house that nobody saw coming. At 1:47 in the morning, Nancy's doorbell camera suddenly disconnected. Then at 2:12 a.m., the camera software detected movement, a person on her porch, but by that point, the video feed was already gone. Whoever came to that house that night knew enough to deal with the camera first. Think about that for a second. This was not random. This was planned. By the next morning, Nancy did not show up to church. That alone was enough to alarm the people who knew her, because Nancy Guthrie did not miss church. Her family came to check on her and what they found, or rather what they did not find, sent everything into a full emergency. Nancy was gone. At 12:03 p.m. on February 1st, 2026, the family called 911, and a missing persons investigation that would eventually involve hundreds of law enforcement officers and capture the attention of the entire nation had officially begun.
The search for Nancy Guthrie in its 17th day, and now the Pima County Sheriff's Department says DNA from a set of gloves found 2 miles from Guthrie's house. One glove does not match anything in the FBI's national DNA database. And this comes as investigators continue looking for any clues that could lead to the kidnapper. Fox's Caroline Elliott has more from Tucson.
The Pima County Sheriff is now sharing the DNA results found inside Nancy Guthrie's home, and it looks like finding the suspect in this case won't be easy.
The DNA on the glove that was found 2 miles away was submitted for CODIS, and I just heard that CODIS had no hits.
Investigators have been focusing on 2 critical pieces of evidence, the glove and the DNA found inside the home. But the sheriff says both samples could not be identified in the FBI's national database.
We're looking at to try to find this individual, whether it be DNA, whether it be that Ring camera video, whether it be evidence at a Walmart that might lead us to somebody.
Other evidence being scrutinized includes the backpack and clothing the suspect was seen wearing on Guthrie's doorbell camera. Investigators are working with Walmart to see if they can determine who may have purchased the bag, which is exclusively sold at the superstore, and whether the jacket was purchased there as well. FBI agents are also asking questions at local gun stores.
He wanted to know if I could help him pull up in my system if any of these people have purchased a gun in the last year.
It's now been 17 days since Nancy Guthrie disappeared, but the sheriff says his team is dedicated to bringing her home.
What I do know is we won't quit. We're going to keep after you. We will find you, and we'll find Nancy.
The sheriff is following up on multiple leads in this case, but at this time, he says there's no evidence that Nancy Guthrie was taken out of the country. In Tucson, Arizona, Caroline Elliott, Fox News.
Now here is where things start to get really unsettling, and I need you to pay close attention to this part, because the details here are what separates this case from a simple missing persons report. When investigators arrived at Nancy's home, they found blood on the front porch. Her blood. DNA confirmed it. And if that alone is not enough to make your stomach drop, they also found DNA from an unknown person collected from the property. Someone who had no business being there. Right away, this stopped being a wellness check and became something far more serious. The FBI got involved almost immediately, alongside the Pima County Sheriff's Department. And as they started piecing together what the doorbell camera had captured before it was disconnected, they got their first real look at who they believed took Nancy. The footage showed a masked individual on her porch in the early hours of the morning. This person was wearing gloves, carrying a black Ozark Trail hiker backpack, the kind sold exclusively at Walmart, and was visibly armed with a holstered pistol. But here is the detail that really stood out to investigators. This person used the plants on Nancy's porch to try to physically block the camera's view. They reached out and moved the plants in front of the lens. Now you tell me, does that sound like someone who showed up by accident? Absolutely not. This person did their homework. They knew the layout of her porch. They knew there was a camera. And they came prepared. FBI Director Kash Patel himself released the surveillance images to the public on February 10th, urging anyone with information to come forward. And even through the mask, investigators noted some defining physical features. Facial hair around the mouth, distinctive eyebrows visible through the eye holes of the mask, an average build standing at roughly 5 feet 9 to 5 feet 10 inches tall. Law enforcement started working with Walmart stores across Arizona to trace the sale of that backpack. They also began reaching out to gun stores in the area, trying to match the unique holster seen in the footage. Every single thread, no matter how small, was being pulled. But then came something that honestly blew a lot of people's minds when it came out. Investigators brought in a technology called Blue Fly, developed by a company called Parsons Corporation, and what this drone technology does is detect Bluetooth and Wi-Fi signals from medical devices. Nancy has a pacemaker, and a pacemaker emits a signal. So the idea was to fly these drones over areas and listen for her pacemaker's signal to try and physically locate her. Let that sink in. They are literally using her own heartbeat to try to find her. It is innovative. It is desperate, and it tells you everything about how seriously law enforcement is taking this case.
I wanted to come on, and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope, and we still believe. And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is that it's never too late. And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. And we believe. And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. and it's never too late.
Now, this is the part of the story where things take a turn that nobody was fully prepared for. Because just when investigators were making steady progress on the physical evidence, something else entered the picture that made everything significantly more complicated. The ransom notes. A local Tucson TV station, KGUN9, received a note demanding $6 million in Bitcoin, and not just any deadline, a hard deadline of 5 p.m. on February 9th, with a direct threat against Nancy's life if the demand was not met. CNN affiliate KOLD received a separate note as well. And TMZ reported receiving an alleged ransom communication demanding a substantial amount of Bitcoin sent to a specific wallet address. Now, at this point, you have to imagine what the Guthrie family is going through. Because on one hand, a ransom note means whoever has her may still want something in exchange for her life, which means she could still be alive. But on the other hand, anyone can send a ransom note. And in 2026, with the technology that exists today, verifying whether a ransom demand is real or fabricated is not as simple as it used to be. Savannah Guthrie and her siblings addressed this directly and publicly. They posted a video that was emotional, raw, and clearly came from a place of absolute desperation. They said, and I am paraphrasing here, "We receive your message. We understand. We beg you to return our mother, and we will pay." But they also made something very clear. They needed proof of life first. They needed to know without any doubt that Nancy was still alive before any kind of payment could even be considered. And honestly, as a viewer watching that video, it is almost impossible not to feel the weight of what that family is carrying right now.
We received your message, and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
These are not just headlines. This is someone's mother, someone's grandmother. And then came a twist that honestly raised even more questions than it answered. The FBI confirmed that at least one of the ransom notes was fake. An arrest was made in connection with what investigators call an imposter ransom demand, meaning someone saw this case all over the news, saw a vulnerable grieving family, and decided to try to take advantage of the situation for personal financial gain. That is a level of cruelty that is hard to wrap your head around. And it also created a nightmare for investigators because now they have to work even harder to determine which communications, if any, are coming from the actual person who is Nancy. To make things even more layered, a completely separate note surfaced from someone claiming to know the kidnapper's identity and demanding 1 Bitcoin, roughly $66,000 at the time, in exchange for that information. So now law enforcement is not just chasing one lead. They are sifting through thousands of tips, multiple ransom communications of varying credibility, and trying to separate what is real from what is noise. All while a clock is ticking on an 84-year-old woman with a heart condition who needs her medication every single day.
It's day 17 in the search for Savannah Guthrie's mom, Nancy. There are still no suspects and no major leads, which has led to frustration across the country. Today, the sheriff finds himself on the hot seat. He spoke with our Jim Murray, who is in Tucson, with the latest.
Another blow in the hunt for Nancy Guthrie's kidnappers. The glove found by cops that appeared to match the glove worn by the kidnapper may have nothing to do with the crime. I spoke with Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos today, just minutes after he was told the news.
There were those gloves that were photographed by a reporter that were taken by investigators.
The gloves, they didn't match in the database.
I see.
And they didn't match any of those samples we obtained from the crime scene or the search warrant scene.
Sheriff Nanos is also speaking out about his announcement that the entire Guthrie family, the siblings and spouses, have been cleared of involvement in Nancy's disappearance.
That family has been through the ringer. They have done nothing but cooperated with this investigation at every step turn. We've taken their phones, we've taken their cars, we've processed their houses, we've interviewed them and interrogated. Look, they are victims.
And he told me he's convinced Nancy Guthrie is still alive.
I believe this individual is out there. I believe Nancy is out there.
Out there alive?
alive.
Why do you believe that? Because
Why
the first
would I
day,
think she's dead?
Police helicopters continue to fly low and slow over Tucson in a desperate effort at detecting Nancy's heart pacemaker. Inside the chopper is a high-tech device known as a signal sniffer, like this one that can home in on a pacemaker transmission. Nancy's pacemaker sends out a signal that's 1 second long every 2 minutes, and in theory, it can be detected even if she's being kept alive in someone's basement. David Kennedy invented the device.
You just need one hit, just one tiny piece of transmission just to find exactly where she's at.
So even if, God forbid, Nancy Guthrie is not alive, that pacemaker still sends out a signal?
That's correct. So these pacemakers, they have lithium batteries that last several years.
Today we're getting unique insight into what Savannah and her family are going.
So where does everything stand right now? Because I know that is a question sitting in the back of your mind throughout this entire story. And the honest answer is, as of February 18th, 2026, Nancy Guthrie has still not been found. But here is what I want you to understand. This investigation is not slowing down. If anything, it is intensifying by the day. The DNA recovered from that glove found 2 miles from Nancy's home was sent to a private lab in Florida for analysis. Results came back on February 15th. And investigators confirmed that the DNA profile from the glove appears to match the gloves worn by the masked suspect seen on her doorbell camera. It is an unknown male profile, meaning it did not return a match in CODIS, the FBI's national DNA database. But here is where it gets interesting. Investigators are now using investigative genetic genealogy, the same technique that cracked the Golden State Killer case after decades, to try to build a family tree from that DNA and work backwards to identify who this person is. That is a significant development. It means even if this person has never been arrested or had their DNA collected before, science may still find them. Meanwhile, the scale of this investigation continues to grow in ways that are almost hard to comprehend. Between the Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI, somewhere between 40,000 and 50,000 tips have been received. Several hundred law enforcement personnel are actively working the case. The FBI reward for information leading to an arrest has been doubled to $100,000. President Trump personally called Savannah Guthrie and directed federal authorities to provide every resource available. And the Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos has publicly and firmly cleared every single member of the Guthrie family as suspects, calling them victims and saying that suggesting otherwise is not only wrong but cruel. And through all of this, the waiting, the fake ransom notes, the uncertainty, the fear, the Guthrie family has continued to show up. Savannah posted another plea as recently as February 15th saying it is never too late to do the right thing, and we are here. That single sentence from a daughter who does not know if her mother is alive or not says more than any headline ever could. Now I want to leave you with something to think about before we close this out, because true crime is not just about the facts. It is about the psychology behind them. So ask yourself this. What kind of person plans something this meticulously against an 84-year-old woman living alone? What does the level of preparation we saw on that doorbell camera tell us about who this person is, and whether they have done something like this before? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, if the DNA from that glove leads investigators to a name, what will we learn about who's been living among us this entire time? If this case has stayed with you the way it has stayed with me, share this video right now. Someone watching this might have a piece of information they do not even realize is important, like this video. Subscribe to Shadow Crime and click that bell icon so you're notified the moment we drop an update on Nancy Guthrie, because this story is not over, and neither is our coverage.